Hello and welcome back to the Cougar Proud Podcast. This is Greg Woods, WSU beat writer for the Spokesman Review, joined as always by Jamey of CougFan.com. And my friend, I hope you are ready to get up at 6 something on Thursday every few days per week.
6 something?
7:45 is when they start.
So I'll get up at 7.
7 to get there at 7:45?
Well, all I got to do is roll out of bed, take a shower, and I'm good.
See, I guess, man, that just kind of stresses me out because I want to have time to eat breakfast and just exist for a little bit before I get there, and I gotta, be a
I'd
normal
rather just
person.
sleep for an extra few minutes.
I would too, but
I need enough time to wake up, take a shower, and get a cup of coffee. As long as I got that, I'm good.
All right, fair enough. Well, we're talking about that because we are only a few days out from the beginning of 2026 Washington State spring football, starting on Thursday, running about a month until the end of April, when we will get as far as we understand it, a more regular spring game, which is kind of crazy. Haven't had that in a couple years. So we're going to spend a lot of this episode just kind of previewing spring football. We did not have an episode last week because, quite frankly, there is not a whole lot to talk about. I mean, off the top of my head, the only things I can think about is Audrey Rodriguez going back overseas, back to Spain, and then the Reeve Avers thing where he was not going down to the portal after, or he still might, but he wasn't going to at that point.
Yeah.
So outside of that, there's not a whole lot to talk about, which is why we took last week off. But we're back, and we're back with some spring football stuff. So that will be the majority of this episode today. So mostly we're going to talk about just kind of what we're looking forward to on both sides of the ball, offense, defense, and kind of just some general thoughts overall. For me, the thing that I'm looking forward to the most is just one, having a more regular structure, not structure, but just having a spring game, not having there's no spring portal, there's no portal opening after spring football. So the team, I think maybe the most interesting part of all this is that the team is the team.
Right.
There's no wondering who will still be here, who will go, who will stay after the spring game. I mean, this is who they have. And I think that will color a lot of the way we think about how they look in spring. So how does that kind of change? Because I feel like the last couple of years I've gone into spring football thinking, this is kind of interesting, but this may or may not matter based on who ends up still being here afterwards. But this is just who they have.
I think, what I would say is in the past, it's more been after spring ball. It's more been who are they going to add? I mean, usually from what from my experience, they didn't lose a lot of top guys after spring ball, right? The guys who were going to leave, who were going to get the dollar signs, who were going to get, the upgrade and so on, they were gone in the winter. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times the spring ball departures were the guys who just realized, okay, I'm not going to be on the depth chart or so on, et cetera, more so than, they might lose this guy, no matter what the last staff seemed to think about who they could possibly lose. But,
yeah,
but to your point, we would go through spring ball watching, there's this battle at, safety. Well, they might add 2 more safeties in the spring portal. I mean, you look at some of the guys they added in the spring portal last year. You talk about Buda Paletti, you talk about Malaki Taase. Those are 2 pretty big contributors who weren't really on the radar heading into the spring. Mike Sanjo obviously played a role. He was a spring portal guy. Obviously played a role before he got hurt. Jalen Caldwell, who obviously is still here, that ended up playing a difference. I mean, the quarterbacks, Duggar and Shepard,
yeah.
and Noga and Dalton and Vaipulu and I think Falialo was a spring portal guy, if memory serves. Yeah. So they definitely put that to good use last year. Whereas this year, again, I mean, now there are still, I think, some players in the transfer portal, right? There are still guys who could commit. They could go say, hey, we actually decided that we need something here, there, whatever. But there's not going to be another wave of new players that are coming in.
Right. So I think that, I mean, honestly, not that, like you said, it wasn't like they were going to lose a real big contributor based off of the spring stuff. But I think I just found myself kind of wondering, how much time I should commit to covering X, Y, or Z, the battle of this position or that position, because of like how different it might look in only a few weeks. Um,
Right.
but no longer the case, which I think is much more. I mean, for our purposes, a lot easier to deal with, just because we can just write about what we see, and that's who they'll have in the fall. Um, so that's cool. I am also, and I'm not trying to like, you know, be all gossipy or whatever, but like the portal opening last year combined with a coaching staff last year that was already pretty leaning in the direction of like paranoid and just on edge all the time. Like having that change in what appears to be a big way, I think I'm already looking forward to that too.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
that'll be
you got to
good.
think it's so funny. I mean, just kind of on that topic, I was talking to my brother last night, just kind of about like some of the guys who'll be back for pro day here in a couple of weeks. And it's like, obviously we got to know Zevi and we got to know, Meredith and Hilborn and the guy, but there just wasn't a chance for us as media to really build like relationships with the guys like Francel or Large or Reed I mean, it's
Yeah.
not that we didn't talk to them a couple times during the season. Um, but you think of how many times those guys would have talked during spring ball or so on, and it's just there was no. I mean, we talked to each guy. We had what 6 interviews in spring ball combined between
I
all those Saturdays.
I don't think we got any repeats. So it was
No,
always
we,
just
we
like
didn't. And
one
then
per guy, yeah.
and the same thing with a lot of the assistants too. I mean, like it was.
Mhm.
I think it was the the relationship between media and players and coaches last year was just so different because they just weren't made available. We just didn't get
Mhm.
to talk to some of those people the way that we got to talk to a ton of players or a ton of or I mean, I think about some of the guys in prior years who were only here at Wazoo for a year, right? Dayon Henley, for example, or we
Mhm.
only really spent 1 year talking to John Mateer, but there was so much access to those guys that there just wasn't last year.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I wish I had been in town for about what I guess like a month and a half ago by now is the signing day availability.
Hmm.
I think I think if Bill Stevens had like suggested anything like that to Jimmy Rogers, he would have been like assaulted.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Like,
basically an hour of I mean, I myself talked to Bray, Miller, Cato, Derek Sage, Greg Burns. I mean, he almost hit everyone. I think the only couple position coaches I didn't get to talk to were Green, Abercrombie, Ina, and Brandon Thompson. But
okay.
I mean, we literally we got the assistants a little bit in fall camp, and then there was that little, and then that was it. He shut down assistant availability. So I mean, we would have loved to talk to
We
Danny Freund kind of about get his take on the offensive issues or something. And it was so controlled last year, and I think it was frustrating. And I think we're part of us being able to tell stories is to get commentary from these assistants. And if we requested them, obviously we weren't going to be necessarily told no, but at the same time, we were told no a lot of times when trying to talk to freshmen and not even true freshmen, redshirt freshmen.
Mhm.
You know, it,
I did talk to Pat besides that.
right? But that was like the one-off
That was
instance. I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
and that's not unusual, right? I mean, there's other coaches who have said, yeah, freshmen aren't talking, and so. But like the one that threw me was when I tried to talk to like Mackenzie Aline, and it's like, oh no,
Mm.
he's not. He's a redshirt freshman. Like, why? Why?
Yeah, I well, and he was like and he obviously and he ended up playing a lot in the bowl game, so it wasn't like he was like that far out of the rotation.
Right.
Um, so yeah, anyway, I just like these guys have seemed more I don't know if this sounds wrong, but they just seem like more normal people. Like I don't and like not to say that the last half weren't, but it's like when the top like when the orders from the top are like when this tone is set from the top down, like, hey, we're just like not gonna be very accessible in the interest of protecting our players and just kind of keeping all, emissaries from other schools out, then that kind of colors the rest of the tone of the program, which I mean, I think maybe like 5 or 6 years ago at Washington State, like that, I guess I could have flown. I'm sure Leach was maybe like that to some extent, but like it doesn't really work in 2025, 2026, like this era that the Cougs are in, because they need eyeballs, they need accessibility. I mean, they should be like bending over backwards for some of the coverage that we would be able to give them, and at least in spring ball, because in spring ball, like there's nothing to criticize them over. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like there's no like bad things that we could write about them, really.
No, I mean, their fear was we would write, oh, Maxwell Woods had a nice carry, and then he'd get poached out of the portal. And it's like,
Yeah.
Or someone that's like at that point, if guys had followed you or if guys had stayed through this coaching change or had come with you, they probably weren't leaving. And
Yeah.
if they do, great. That's the nature. But they're not. Other coaches aren't watching spring tape or reading our spring articles to determine. Yeah, we want that guy to the portal because Jamey Vinnick or Greg Woods wrote a sentence or two about him like that. That's where it just goes overboard. It's
Yeah.
the thing with Leach too is even Leach there was more access than what we got in the spring,
Really?
and this is and this is
Huh. Wow.
the point I always make. You know what? Mike Leach earned that right over the years.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
enough success, not just in general, but you have enough success at Washington State. Fine. Like, I think it was
Yep.
off-putting for a first-year coach with a brand new team, a month into the job to say, no, spring ball's closed. You guys get three days and that's it.
Yeah, yeah. And I kind of get it. Like maybe they would have operated differently if they didn't have like the post spring portal window. Like I'm not saying I endorse it by any means. Obviously it makes it harder for fans to connect with your guys and for our purposes as well. But like I also wonder just like how maybe they would have changed things up if they didn't have to worry about their guys getting post spring.
I mean, we'll probably find out here in a couple of weeks at Iowa State.
Oh, that is a good point. Yeah, maybe we'll see. We can find out for sure. Um Yeah, Iowa State. Oh, yeah, also Iowa State basketball somehow is it's just like chugging along without their best player. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think they're finally about to really get tested. I mean, I know Kentucky has name, but it's also Kentucky. I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah,
they're particularly good, and I think Tennessee will be a good challenge.
yeah. How's your bracket looking?
Pretty darn good. I mean, I'm at
Really? Oh shit.
90% right now.
What? Really?
Yeah,
Oh my
I mean,
god.
my final four: Michigan, uh, Michigan, Duke, Arizona, Illinois. So
Also alive.
yeah, so I mean, I had Florida losing in the Elite Eight. I didn't have
Mm.
I've lost two Elite Eight teams, Florida and yeah, thanks a lot, Gonzaga. The one year I take you past the Sweet 16 and you choke
Where'd
against
you have
Texas.
them?
I had them in the Elite Eight I had them beating Purdue
Oh.
because I also think Purdue's a choker, but should have known
Sure.
better. I mean, Sweet 16 is usually about as at least lately. That's usually a safe bet for Gonzaga, but that's back to back second round exits.
Yeah.
If
Well,
you're
not having
using
Huff
not.
hdon't. People
Well,
love
yeah,
to
sure, but
not that I don't think anybody wants to hear us, like, defend Gonzaga basketball, but, like, not like, I think a lot of teams are afforded this, like, okay, they didn't have their best player or second best player kind of, like, this people are more willing to, like, understand that, but all of a sudden Gonzaga doesn't have theirs, it's like, "Oh, same old Gonzaga." Like, "Okay, man, like, they didn't have" you know what I mean? Like, I get it, like, not everybody is, like, that invested in, like, the minutia of your roster, but, like, not having your second best player hurts, like, that's gonna
oh
hurt
no,
anybody.
for sure. But
Um
I think my argument was they still should have beaten Texas. Texas is.
Oh, definitely,
I'm
yeah.
still not convinced Texas is that damn good.
No,
Uh,
no. They just have that big white 7-foot guy that was just
yeah, and
like
he is good, but I mean he
um,
gets to the line like no one's business. Uh,
crazy.
but yeah, no. Other than that, bracket's not doing.
Alright.
It's the most chalk I've ever won. Oh, I blew every
My
12-5 game besides I hit one of them. Which one did I hit? No, missed that. I got Vanderbilt. I blew every other 12-5 game.
I had Vanderbilt going to my Elite Eight, I think, and I was really miffed to see the one-shot miss from Tyler Tanner that was, like, three-quarters court.
You had Vanderbilt beating Florida?
Yeah, yes. I
Wow.
really like Vanderbilt.
I mean,
I
I did
wasn't
too,
really
but I didn't really have anything to. I mean, I had Tennessee or Virginia, so I was pretty pleased with that one.
mm,
But yeah, usually I take one Cinderella. I'm just like, there just isn't one this year
I
that really
just
stands
yeah.
out to me.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Even the
mean,
hotter team, like I usually like give. I'm usually higher on the hotter teams. Like this year would have been like South Florida, but they ended up
I
losing their first game. Like,
yeah, I took them. I thought they would win. I had VCU. I thought that was a pretty easy pick.
mm,
I actually did. I hit an 8-9 game. I almost always go like 0 for 4. There was a
oh,
stretch up
yeah.
until the last couple years where I had gone like 6 years without hitting an 8-9 game. I'd always get it wrong.
I
And
think
I went 3 for 4 this year. And one of my I changed Georgia in one of my brackets. The other one I went 4 for
oh,
4. So
Georgia was the one that just got curb stomped
yeah,
against
by St.
St.
Louis.
Louis. Yeah, I think I actually had Georgia in that game,
Yeah, I had
unfortunately.
one. I changed it on my ESPN bracket the morning before, and then before I could change it in the other group I'm in, I kept. So there's one I went 4 for 4 on.
Hmm, fascinating. Well,
Mhm.
all right. Well, let's move on to kind of what we're looking or going to be looking for the most with WSU. And the way I kind of want to set this up is we can just do three things that we're looking forward to on each side of the ball. So we can go. Let's go offense first, and then we can just for the sake of making these things easy to understand. Let's go offense first, and we can kind of just like trade off things that we're gonna be looking forward to. So do you want to start or do you want me to start?
All you.
That's on me. Okay. Outside of because like the easy thing here with the offense is kind of just seeing how Caden Pinnock looks. So I think that's like pretty obvious, and I don't think anybody's gonna be like that thrown off by that. But what
Right.
I'm actually looking forward to is seeing if Owen Esselman can kind of push for the QB2 or maybe even QB1 job. Like I would be pretty shocked if he ends up like starting in the fall, but I don't think it's too crazy to imagine him being like backup come September. Um, like I feel like coaches have like sung his praises, whether it was Rogers or Danny Freund or now moving on to Kirby Moore and Matt Moore. Um, and I think
Miller.
it's or Matt Miller. I've Kirby Moore. I've yeah, Matt Miller. Uh, and I feel like it's finally time that I feel like he's like kind of getting ready to establish himself as a guy that can really get on the field. And I think what's actually interesting is that he reminds me, and I know I'm a little bit not biased, but I feel like this is an easy comparison to make because of the fact that they're both white guys. But it almost seems like a John Mateer situation, almost like there's like this young guy who's like more seen as an athlete that's kind of waiting in the wings, and he might have a little bit of an athletic upside to him, but no one's really like seen what he can do yet. Um, so maybe there's a chance that he gets on the field, maybe not in a starting role, but like a backup role, as like a change of pace, using his athleticism and 'cause I think Pinnock will probably end up starting, but I feel like Usman might be more athletic. Maybe is that crazy to say? I feel like there's a chance that he can get on the field
I
that
think
way at
it'll be
least.
good to get a good look at us from before we say that, but I don't think it's an outlandish statement by any means.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of the way I see it too. Like because that's kind of what spring ball is all about. Like, that might end up being a dumb take by the end of spring ball, but that's kind of what I'm hoping to kind of find out a little bit more about. Is just kind of like, is that a fair comparison to make, and is that kind of where his future is at? Um,
We've got breaking podcast news right now.
oh, what's that?
Per Joe Tipton of On3 Sports, Washington State forward Emily Yalaho plans to enter the transfer portal.
Oh, how about that?
So I think we pause the football to talk about that, probably.
Okay, yeah, maybe we can just hit on that for a second.
Yeah. Um, I'm not
Wow.
overly surprised, to be honest.
No, me neither.
I mean, I think he was one of the guys who, on the surface, you felt like there was probably going to be some money out there.
Mhm.
He's an interesting case, right? Because he had a good year, right? 11.6 rebounds, but it was so streaky, and it felt like if you look at his numbers against Tier A opponents on Ken Palm, yikes.
Oh, is it bad?
Uh, he had a 74.3 offensive rating against Tier A opponents,
Mm.
27.9 turnover rate, shot 40
Ooh.
from two and 26 from three. Just for those curious, the A opponents are Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and both those games, and then USC.
So just like
So
4 or
5
5
games.
games?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And he really, really struggled in those games.
Mm.
Now, I mean, and like, I'm not trying to say he's not a good player, but I do think some of his, I mean, again, you look at some of the games where he really put up some big numbers. He had a great game against Santa Clara, but
Mhm.
Portland, San Francisco, I mean, he definitely, I think, feasted on some of the lesser teams. And I think, especially when you got into conference play, his turnovers could be problematic. And there was a lot of sloppy turnovers in there.
Yeah, a lot of passes that just, like, ended up in, like, the 3rd row.
Yeah, or
Like,
there was,
kinda
I mean, he would just,
bizarre.
I think it was against LMU. He literally just lost the ball, just like fell out of his hands for a late turnover.
Yeah.
So
I Honestly, I feel like this speaks more to because I think you're totally right, and even with that being the case, I think it speaks to just the way that coaches value, like, archetype and size and, like, shooting ability. Because you're right on the money, like, I feel like, he doesn't, like, wow you against the best teams that they played,
Right.
but you also look at 6'8", like, stretch 3, 4, can knock down the 3. I'm sure he saw, like, close to 40% on threes this year.
Yeah,
Um,
40%.
yeah, yeah, and I feel like that the potential can earn you a lot of money, even if
Right.
it doesn't line up with what you actually have delivered, which is kinda
Uh,
crazy.
no, I think just the interesting thing is, he's listed a power forward, but he really didn't do a lot of power forwarding.
Yeah. No, he almost played the 5 sometimes for them.
Right. When they
Like,
would go small and want all the shooting in.
yeah. So, wow, okay. So Yolaho is out.
Yes. I mean,
Um,
and portal doesn't open until April 7th, so play
right.
expected to enter but
Expected to enter the yeah, yeah.
do with that what you will.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree. I'm not shocked. 'Cause where is he from again? Is he from he's from,
Finland.
like, Finland, Finland, yeah, I
Yeah.
was trying to think of, like, what would be closer to home, but not even really applicable here. Yeah, alright, well, I'm not surprised, I honestly feel like it's not, like I don't know, they gotta get more scoring, because this is kind of
Right.
the way I felt about the team all year, is that they almost overcorrected via the portal and got guys that didn't end up, having as much offensive upside, so and he did, but I mean, like, I think you gotta get more athletic and more offensive
I think
oriented. That's
athleticism is going to be big. They need
yeah.
guys who can create their own shots, and that's not his game. He is not. I mean, he had a couple nice fadeaways and so on, but he was not a create your own shot kind of guy. It was a lot of catch and shoot type, which is fine. You need those guys too,
Yeah,
but they
yeah.
need guys who can go get you a bucket late in the shot clock. You basically only really had one.
So you're not saying that you feel like Ace Glass might not be here in the fall?
Whether I mean, but even if Ace returns, they need
Yeah,
another
no,
guy or two to
y
create their own shot. I mean, that's just
you're right.
again, you point to the team, the tournament team: Miles, Isaac, Jalen. Even if Jalen was a catch and shoot specialist, he could still go get you a bucket.
Yeah, he got a lot better at that as the season went on.
Right. I mean, but those three in particular, and as we're seeing
Yeah.
now, there's a few guys on that team who could have gotten you a bucket. I mean, Dylan Darling with the game winner last night, and
Yeah.
obviously Ruben's become a star. I mean, that team was just flushed with talent.
God, it is crazy. Like it sounds crazy to say because they snapped a 16-year tournament drought and finished second at the Pac-12. But considering the way that talent has kind of like gone on to achieve what they've achieved, if they might have even underachieved
I
that
think that
year.
the tough part is just they were those a lot of those guys were so young.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, just like think about this. Think if that team exists in 2005 and they all, I mean, Isaac would have been gone and maybe
hmm
Jalen's gone too. But you think about what a team with like Miles and Darling and Isaiah Watts and Oscar and Isaac Jones and all
yeah,
the
yeah,
not Isaac Jones, but and Ruben.
yeah.
Who knows what they look like at this point with all of those guys developed, plus whoever else they would have
Well,
brought in. And we obviously know how good Kyle was at bringing in talent, but
yeah,
I think I definitely have heard the underachieve. It's tough because again, it wasn't like you had Dylan Darling as a starting caliber St. John's player. It was before Oscar took the job. It was before Ruben took the job. It was just
yeah,
they were a year too early on like 3 to 4 guys. If all of those
yeah.
guys were like a year older, 2 years older, I mean, who knows what that team could have done.
Yeah, like it takes time to kind of become the player. Like nobody was really being like. I mean, Ruben was awesome or in spots. Like he won them. He didn't win the game, but he was awesome because Arizona on the road. But like, it's easy to look back like, oh man, they. But like, it takes time to really hit your potential like that.
And I
So
think with someone with Ruben, like you saw, okay, Ruben's
he
going to
was.
be a star, but like I don't think anyone saw Oscar Clough and Dylan Darling becoming what they are.
I had no way of knowing because Darling didn't play that year, and
Right.
the year before
But
that,
like,
I
and like
I
you
was.
saw flashes in the year before. He was a really good defender. But if you had told me that in 3 years' time he would have been the Big Sky Player of the Year and would have just hit a game-winning bucket starting for a number 5 seed in the NCAA tournament to go to the Sweet 16, that would have been a little tough to to believe at the
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
again, it's great for him. I mean, he's obviously worked his tail off to become a better player. But I do think it's interesting to look back and say, wow, those guys really did take a jump that I don't think many probably expected.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's fascinating because like that team was constructed under under like circumstances that no longer exist. Like the team was built in this like regular Pac-12, not pre
Oh, yes.
NIL, but like there was not that was not nearly as prevalent as it is now, even though it was only 2 years ago, which is crazy.
No,
Um,
I mean, even then, you look at the circumstances. I mean, Miles was obviously a unique case where he was a third year freshman.
yeah.
Isaac just happened to, you be kind of this local kid who started to really blossom late and was close to an assistant that you hired. I mean, you
Mhm.
hit an absolute home run on a D2 kid. Um,
Yep.
and then obviously the son of or the grandson of Slick Watts, his recruitment kind of falls through and he ends up hitting some huge shots for you down the stretch. And
Mhm.
it was just kind of a perfect storm of everything coming together all at once of various circumstances that led you to. And here's what's insane to think about is that team in an alternate universe could have had Muhammad Gay and TJ Bamba as well.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if you have Muhammad Gay, do you not have Isaac Jones? Probably,
I
but I
That
digress.
probably shakes things up outside or, like, within the
Sure.
roster, but that is crazy to think about, most definitely. I think it was actually 2 years ago yesterday or today is when they were in the tournament. I got it on my, like, phone memories that popped up this morning.
Hmm.
I believe it was the Dr or was it I no, they played Iowa State 2 years ago
2
today.
years ago today, they played Iowa State.
Yeah, yeah, man. That
2
was
years
so
ago
fun,
today was
man.
the final game.
That was I
Kyle
know we're
Field.
way off topic, and we'll get back to football in a second,
It
but I just wanna say, like, that was I've been doing this for a long time, dude, and that was by far the most fun I've ever had doing this type of work.
it wasn't just that they were good, it was a fun team to cover. It was great personalities.
Yeah.
And I think just everything behind it of it had been so long for the program since they'd been to a tournament. It's different covering
Mhm.
a team that goes to the tournament than goes to a bowl, right? I mean,
Yeah.
over half the teams in the country go to a bowl. It's a great accomplishment to go to a bowl game. I'm certainly not disputing that, but it just hits different to go to the NCAA tournament.
The tournament is, like, much more exclusive for sure,
Right.
and
I
I
mean, you
mean
hit 6 wins, you're in a bowl game. I mean, all you
yeah.
gotta do is win half your games. You've got to win 20 plus to even really be considered. Unless you're an SEC team, and then oh, we went 16-16, we should be in Auburn.
Auburn, yeah. I was gonna
I
say.
was really disappointed they beat Seattle U last night.
Oh, are they in the NIT? I didn't
Yeah, they
even
played in the
know.
NIT.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, dude, that was man, what a fun team to cover. I miss those guys. All right. Anyway, back to what we are actually here to talk about, which is football. Um, okay, that was my. I think I just pretty much gotten done talking about my first thing on offense that I was going to be looking forward to. Give me your number one thing on offense that you're going to be looking for this spring.
Nathaniel Salmon.
That was
I mean,
that was
honestly,
my number two.
right off the bat, how do they use a 6'7", 270-pound former pro basketball player who got a tryout with the Chargers? I mean, you have to
Yeah.
find a way to get him on the field right away, right?
I mean, I would imagine so. Like he's obviously a freak athlete to some extent. So
So I'm just fascinated to see just to see him play.
just yeah.
Were you there when we played basketball against him at the rec?
No, I was about to bring that
No.
up. I was not there. Was he
Yeah, I
good?
mean, you could tell. Well, he was like, "Whoa, this is a little different in terms of athleticism."
Oh, and he's like, he's listed at like 6'7". Is that you think
Oh,
that's
he's huge.
probably
He's
accurate? Yeah.
he is every bit of it.
Jeez.
And you could tell, oh yeah, this guy used to be a pro hooper.
Really?
It's funny though,
Yeah.
and I do want to mention this. We've obviously seen the comments of, oh, they should try and get him on the basketball team. I don't know if he'd have eligibility.
Oh, because of his pro basketball experience?
No, because I think he's 22, 23 years old. And basically, like your eligibility clock starts when, I mean, that's why Audrey only technically had the 1 year.
Oh, it wasn't because he had played pro ball in Spain? It was because of
Right.
his
I
age?
think once you start
Oh,
playing pro
yeah.
ball, that starts your
That
eligibility clock.
right.
So I'm wondering if I don't know if he would have eligibility, and he obviously I think is pursuing football more than anything, but it
Yeah.
is something I think worth noting is I don't know if he'd actually have eligibility.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Yeah, Yeah, I am like fascinated because I just kind of want to learn more about just like how he like went from one thing to another, from New Zealand to he didn't go right to LA. He went to somewhere else before that. I'm drawing a blank. He got invited to the IMG Academy in Florida.
Yes.
And then from there to the chart, and then so I'm just interested to see like how he like um felt prepared for such crazy steps and all across the world, really.
Right.
Damn, that was my number two. You're so good at that, taking stuff that I had already planned out. Okay, well let me just go to my number three then, and then I'll come up with a different number two. Um, my new number two, which was my number three originally, is kind of seeing how this new receiver group meshes. And not only that, but they're gonna have a lot more size than I think they've had in recent years. I mean, you look at some of the guys, and I know the listings are not always entirely accurate, but from what we have right now, Darius Clemens, 6'3", Ryan McKendry out of a JUCO is 6'2", and then Jordan Dees, who's out of West Georgia, at 6'3", which I don't, maybe all those guys don't crack the rotation in a meaningful way come the fall, but having having a list of candidates like that with that much size, I think is going to be huge for them because, I mean, they're already bringing back Tony Freeman, obviously, but then you add in guys that have really played at this level. I mean, maybe maybe not all the snaps in the world. Like I know Clemens was hurt last year and didn't play a whole lot of Michigan before that, but I think having size combined with just like power four experience, like they never really had that. Or not in this new like portal era. They never really had those kinds of like upsides to them before. So I think adding those guys on top of Tony Freeman and um, I think I'm just fascinated to see just like how those guys like if they how much of a difference their size really makes and how they kind of all mesh together.
Yeah, I'd say for my number two, I'm kind of interested to see what the offensive line rotation looks like. You have the five guys who have come back as starters, and we know that with Tripp, Lester, Martin, Dunham, and Caldwell. But where does Maximus McCree figure in? Where does Kalolo Taaga figure in? Nick Bakken.
Mhm.
You've got Xavier Thorpe. So is it as simple as the five guys with returning starts? And is Caldwell healthy? Right. I mean, it was a season-ending injury that he suffered in October. Is he ready to go yet? I mean, we don't know the nature of the injury. Shocker, but he was on crutches, so he could still be working his way back in. But I'll be interested to see kind of and how much rotation do they go with at that position.
Mhm. Well, I'm also like I think the whole like Max McCree thing is he. I hope he goes by Max. Maybe I'm just giving him a nickname he doesn't actually use. I feel like his story fits in really nicely with the way this roster was constructed over the offseason, which was just kind of like reach for guys that have played, a good amount of power forward football in their past and are now trying to kind of revitalize their careers in different kinds of ways. Which like he started, I think his first year at UW was like 2020, I want to say, which was a long time
No, it
ago.
was his first year of college football was
Or not even
2020.
yeah, which was at
Maryland, JUCO in 2021, Maryland in 22, Iowa
oh,
Central in
that's
23,
that you're right.
and then UW in 24 and 25.
That's right. Yeah, so just a guy that's like kind of been around at different stops, which a lot of these guys have similar stories. I mean, even just the receiver group that I was just talking about, like with Daniel Blood being at Missouri and Clemens with Oregon State and Michigan. Um, Tank Hawkins, I know he was only at Florida for a couple of years, but a lot of these guys just kind of like been around. So I'm wondering just like how they end up um, fitting into this new environment. So that's the Cree one is interesting.
I think it'll be interesting too because he's only played left tackle,
Yeah,
but on the surface, like
is he going to
it
take Acid
does
Tripp's
seem
job? Like,
right. I mean, it does seem like it would be. You never know. It's a new coaching staff. They might have their preferences, but it does seem like, at least again, on the surface, Tripp might be in a pretty good spot. He was a 13-game starter
mhm,
at left tackle last year. It's not an easy thing to do. And they obviously made it a priority to get him back. I
yeah,
don't know if I see it being overly likely that they tell him, no, by the way, you're not the left tackle. So
yeah,
either McCree competes and maybe he unseats Tripp. It could happen. Or is it okay? you've got to flip over to the right side, where I think it's fair to say would be more of an open competition. Caldwell obviously has experience while at Grand Valley State, but certainly isn't as entrenched in his spot at Washington State as maybe Tripp is, to where Caldwell, McCree, Ta'aga, Thorpe all could be battling for that spot. I think that'll be interesting to monitor. And I'll get to a little bit more for my third point, but after you.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, like, Caldwell might not even be healthy enough to practice for the spring
Right.
ball. So maybe we just get like a glimpse of that right away here on Thursday. And I believe Aga has only ever played, is it right tackle or left tackle?
Right.
Right tackle. Okay. So a lot of these guys have only ever, like, they don't have, I mean, they might be more versatile than that, but they've only actually played certain positions at this level.
And it
So
is difficult to flip from one to the other. I
yes.
mean, it can be done, but it's Andre Dillard who famously said it's like trying to, excuse me, write with your offhand,
Mm.
switching sides. Now, you have to do it sometimes, and I think probably it's easier in college when you're still kind of young and developing. But
Yeah.
it is something. It isn't just as simple as everyone thinks. Of you can play right, you can play left. It does take some different footwork and so on.
I was actually guilty of thinking that, like, earlier, like, when I was younger.
Oh, me
I was like,
too.
"Oh, like, how hard can it be? Like, it's kind of the same position, just like a different spot of the line."
Yeah,
But
no, I mean, until I heard that, I mean, this was probably 2019 or something. I thought the same
mm,
thing. Maybe it's after that. It could be after that, but I thought the same thing.
yeah, I was like, how hard can it be? But clearly, it's much more
Not easy.
complicated. Yeah, okay. Well, I know you kind of stole my number two, but just like the tight ends overall, like last year, the tight ends. I mean, like it kind of turned into a less of a pass catching thing and more of just kind of a like Fale was awesome as a run blocker and a pass blocker, and that's kind of what the tight end position kind of became. I think in a lot of ways last year, it's just like another blocker when they wanted to kind of move the ball on the ground. But I'll be interested to see kind of how they utilize that position this year because not only do they have Salmon, but obviously Lechner's coming back. Hudson Cedarland's coming back, and then they add Jack Peterson from UCLA out of the portal, who is I think has played like 3 or 4 years of football already. So I'll be interested to see just like one their overall approach to that position, but also just like how the guys that get into that rotation because you look at the surface, it's like okay, like Lechner has the most experience at WSU, but then Peterson's played more football at maybe a little bit of a higher level. And then Cedarland, you know what I mean? There's just like so many guys that have like different stories, different backgrounds. And I think the way that they use those guys will tell us a lot about um, what a Kirby Moore offense looks like. 'Cause we have an idea in our heads, but until we see how it's utilized with the guys they have, it could be more different or more similar. So, um,
Right. No, I think that's entirely fair. And then I would go for number three. It's always tough in spring ball, right? Because run plays are only half operated, but just to see how they split the reps with Woods, Pulalasi, and Voorhees. I mean, you've got three essentially RB1s. How do you divvy that up? I mean, last year we talked a lot about that, but it was pretty clearly Angel Johnson was the one going into the spring, and then it kind
mm,
of, went down from there. But you've got three guys who I think all came back with the understanding that they're going to get the ball. So how do you keep all those guys happy with, again, three RB1 caliber players who deserve to get touches and deserve to be on the field?
yeah, yeah. Well, I think I mentioned that maybe like when we were wrapping up the football season, or maybe it was like when they re-signed all their guys. Like in past years, when guys would come back, it was like okay, like they're coming back. Like that doesn't really mean a whole lot necessarily. But now when guys come back, they're not just coming back. They're like re-signing with a purpose in mind.
Right. Of
And
like,
when you have a crowded room like that, it's like, well, like what does that say about kind of where things are headed?
yeah, I mean, you had two of the three running backs declare some intent. I mean, Pulalasi actually entered the portal. Obviously, Voorhees declared his intentions. Obviously, never went in. But
Hmm.
you had those two guys. I mean, I'm sure they had to. Max Woods would have had a pretty good marking after him. But
Oh yeah,
I don't think they were able to say, "Hey, we just want you back." And that's it. I mean, I'm sure there
yeah,
was a message of we're going to get you your touches. You're going to get on the field, and I don't. You can't really lie about that kind of thing because then the
yeah,
word gets around it. Oh, they just tell you what you want to hear. You don't want to do that.
yeah.
So I I do think there is going to be a way, even that split back stats are using guys in a couple of different ways. But I do think it'll be interesting to see, especially in the spring. Is it really like, all right, you get 9 reps, it's 3, 3, and 3, or is it okay? It's 4 reps, 2 reps, 2. I mean, 4, 3,
Yeah.
2. How does it work?
Yeah. Well, because I always kind of feel like every spring ball, every fall camp, you always hear about not just here, but like a lot of teams like around the country. You always hear like, "Oh my gosh, we have a stable of running backs. We have 3 or 4 or 5 guys that we feel like," and then you get to the like week 4, week 5, and it's like, okay, you have like a main guy that you rely on.
Right.
So I'm
But I
wondering, so I'm not saying that has to be the case, but with so many guys that you feel like could be that guy, like how does that all kind of get sorted out?
Right. And I think to some degree, though, there is a reason to believe that they do have that stable. I mean, I think
Hmm.
coaches will say that, and it's like, yeah, but that stable includes, the freshman walk on, that hasn't ever played a snap. Like these are 3
Right.
guys who have proven to be very effective running backs.
For sure. For sure.
But
Yeah.
I
So
but to your point, I do think it's interesting of how do you manage all that.
yeah, yeah. Well, and especially like I just think like this whole new era, like that would have been like that has always been hard to do under like a regular like NIL portal free world. But now it's like, there's almost a little bit of pressure to actually not pressure, but like these guys are coming back with the understanding that that will be the case. Like they, you know what I mean? They're coming back with some intentionality, and there's money on the line. Like it kind of sounds crass to say it like that, but that is the case. So,
Right. I mean,
um,
you used to, oh, guy doesn't play. All right, you have a shot to play next year. Now it's he doesn't play. He going. I mean,
yeah,
it's the unfortunate, really the damned if you do, damned if you don't. You don't play a guy enough, he's going to leave. You play a guy too much, he has a great year, he's probably going to leave.
exactly.
There's no
Yeah.
middle ground. It's a coach doesn't win enough, he's probably going to get fired. He wins too much, he's going to leave.
And even if he goes
You
six and
thought,
six,
yeah, and you thought, all right, he goes 6-6, you're safe. Nope.
no, he might be besties with another sitting AD at a Power Four school.
It's so funny. I was looking at this the other day, not to get too off track, but it is so wild how Rogers' career almost mirrors TJ Otzelberger. They
Yeah.
both inherit this absolute titan at South Dakota State, obviously football more so than basketball. They
Hmm.
go to a school out west that's considered a step up, to have mediocre seasons, and then go to Iowa State. And if Rogers really falls, then he'll be excellent at Iowa State. But if you look at Otzelberger at UNLV, he was extremely mediocre, unimpressive. I mean,
Really?
and I remember when he got hired at Iowa State, it's like, really? Like, he had been there a few times, and I think that probably helped.
Hmm.
But Otzelberger's record at UNLV the 2 years before he got hired, he was 29-30.
Oh,
He
so
didn't
not
make
a
he did not make the NCAA tournament, didn't even make the NIT.
they like win the conference or something or huh?
His first year they went 12-6 in conference and finished fourth. His second year they went 8-10 in conference and finished like seventh.
Oh God.
Yeah, so that's
So what?
it's so like going 6-6 in football.
It's all. I guess their AD just has a thing for Western coaches that are just kind of produce middling seasons.
Right, and then granted, again, Otzelberger had been an assistant there from 6-10, and then an associate from 10 to
Mhm.
13, and an assistant again in 15-16. So he was well tied to the school. But
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. It's like they basically had the same trajectory of excellent at South Dakota State, extremely unremarkable at a West Coast school, and then to Iowa State.
Well, Rogers doesn't really. He was never at Iowa State, but he was like geographically close too. So maybe
Basically,
that was
I
yeah.
mean,
I mean, it was like
and I think because his wife's from Iowa, and I think Otz's wife went to
yeah.
Iowa State.
And I think that those programs, like even though one is Power Four and one is FCS, they have a lot of like obviously they're like geographically close, but I think they have a lot of similarities, and I think a lot of those coaches know each other because of like how similar of programs they are and how awesome they both are. Well, not awesome. I'm not saying Iowa State football is awesome. Believe me, I'm not here to defend Iowa State football, but you get what I'm saying. Like there's some similarities outside of just being close to each other geographically.
Right now, I don't know
Um,
if a lot of those other ads are texting coaches good luck before every game, but
I still do not understand why you would volunteer that
I'm
information.
going to bring that up until the end of time. Like, I am going to make remarks about that until the end of time because it is still the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life.
We're gonna be like 50 calling each other like, "Hey, remember when we were like in our late 20s and we found out that."
Between that and Jake Dickert taking shots at his recruiting areas at Washington
Oh
State,
God.
I'm not sure which I don't understand more. You know what you
Neither
do? Take a lesson from Kyle Smith. You go, you do your press conference, and that's it.
you don't volunteer information that like makes you look really weird.
Yeah. You go, you do your press conference. You talk about how much Stanford means, how much Washington State means, how much obviously it means to your family and so on. And then you
Yeah.
go coach.
It was just so crazy because like no one pressed him to get that information out of them. It was just like they said it on their own volition.
Yeah, it's, you don't have to create sound bites. I mean,
Yeah.
what is it that Rogers? Oh yeah, the look at my track record when at his Wazoo press conference. It speaks about loyalty, and it's like, wow, okay,
It speaks about something.
yeah, you've been a head coach 3 places in 3 years.
Dude, what a strange time, man.
Goodness
Um,
gracious.
yeah. All right, let's move on to defense.
Yeah,
Let me give you my first thing that I'm looking forward to seeing how this shakes out. Just the size and the secondary overall that they brought in via the portal.
agreed.
Um, Let me go through because I think like you see it at safety, but it's also very prevalent at cornerback as well. So let me go through some of the names just so we can get a kind of an overview of what we're working with here. So Jeremiah Bernard, safety, 6 foot. Jalen Thomas, the safety, 6 foot. Jay Sean Froster Ramos, hope I'm saying his name right, 6 foot. Jack Ball, 6'2". Kyle Peterson, who's coming back, is 6 foot as well. And then going over to cornerback, we have CJ Solos Lamar at 6'1". We have Jamari Smith, who's also a returner, 6'1". Kyra Polar returned to 6 foot. Kamari Terrell out of Texas State, 6'1". Jaleel Tucker out of Oregon State, 6 foot. And then maybe the coolest name that I've seen, Elmo Elmo Wharton. Sick name. 6'3", by the way. Unbelievable. Um, and they have not, I mean, you know as well this as well as I. All right, they have not enjoyed that kind of size across the board in the secondary, and I don't know how long.
A long
Um,
time. A
Before I got
long
here for
time.
sure. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to just like seeing how they use that to their advantage because a lot of their best secondary players over the years have still been a little bit undersized. I mean, I'm trying to think back
I
to
mean,
like
Shaw wasn't big.
who? Oh, Shaw Smith.
Shaw.
Oh, yeah. And even like Jaden Hicks was like 6 feet, I would imagine, 6'1".
Jaden was bigger than that. I think Jaden was
Really?
probably, yeah, Jaden's 6'1", 215.
Gotcha. Okay. I guess
Um,
he's kind of an exception.
yeah.
But a
But
lot
I
of
mean,
their best.
it's
I
not
mean,
like
like going
Toby
back to.
Humphrey was.
I mean, well, and then like Tucker Large was like 5'10" or 5'11" probably.
Yeah, I mean, Humphrey was 5'11".
Yeah, and those guys were
Maury wasn't
awesome.
huge.
Yeah, and those guys were good. But I mean, having a guy that's 6'1" or 6'2", 6'3" is, I mean, that can only help you, I would imagine.
Right.
So yeah, just a thing that they have not enjoyed in many moons. Hopefully that we'll see how that works out for them.
I'd say my first thing on defense is just kind of get a feel of what scheme they're going to run. I mean, they just have kind of been
Mm-hmm.
non-committal, and talk about how they're going to run a variety of different things. But what do they? I mean, they got to have a base, and my assumption is it's going to be a 4-2-5 type with some 4-3 and so on. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's not. I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see what they operate a lot of their defense out of. It's not insignificant that their defensive ends are still listed as defensive ends instead of edges. That
Mm-hmm.
screams more of a 4-3-ish, but Bray's run a variety of different things in his career. Does Kirby have his own, I want to run this? I think it'll be get a good idea of what their base defense is going to look like.
Yeah. I was not really thinking because they put out the spring roster the other day, and I was halfway expecting to see a kind of return to edges because of how prevalent that is, and I think the Rogers era was just kind of a throwback to the defensive end era, but still defensive ends. Um, and by the way, they have a lot of new guys at that position. So I didn't make it this one of my things, but the host of new defensive ends. I think will be fascinating to watch as well. Um, Number two, my second thing on defense that I will be looking for this spring is the impact that the new DTs will be able to make. Because not only do they have a whole lot of new DNs, but the DT spot is replete with new guys as well. Between Paul Hudson and Jaira Leo Pepitele, hope I'm saying his name right.
I think you got it.
Uh, Bon- okay, perfect. Oh yeah, you would know. You're all about the pronunciations with those guys. Bolan Miller, Ike Okafor, and Akio Martinson, and DeMarhe Lewis, all guys that not only are well traveled, but have played real snaps too at their old spots. Um, so just and I think that like uh one thing that's always like pretty noticeable, regardless of um even if you're not like if you just like landed on the practice field as like a non-football nowhere, if the defensive line is really making an impact and really stealing the show, like that becomes pretty clear. So I'm interested to see just like if those guys like who I know, they're not giving each other their best shot and they won't be tackling, I would imagine, in earnest the entire spring slate. But just like if those guys are able to kind of really establish themselves and are they, pushing the offensive line, who's really getting the edge there? Um, because you have an experienced, at least experienced first group on the offensive line, going up against a lot of new guys that, have been awesome at their last spots, but now they kind of have to reestablish themselves here. So, and the other thing that this is kind of a side note to my second thing is I'm wondering if Caden Beatty becomes like just like the leader of that group.
I think for sure. I think when you look at the
I
fact he's one of two returners and you look at the personality, I mean, I think
Mhm.
it's a seamless transition for him to be kind of, the leader.
Yeah, yeah. Which I think for you and me, no, we would be very happy to see that happen because of how an awesome an interview he is. He is just awesome, and I'm hoping we get him a lot this spring and fall because he's just a great quote and a great guy. So, all right, yeah, that was my number two. Have you done your number two yet? Am I going crazy?
No, this is, wait, or was that, no, that was your,
That was my number two.
what was my number? Oh, the space defense. um,
Yes.
I'm interested to see uh the linebacker positions, right? Because they
Mm,
didn't bring in a ton of bodies. They brought in Keith Brown. They brought in Nyland Brown, and they
yeah.
brought in DJ Warner. And other than that, they're relying on obviously Keith Brown being healthy, and then the returners, the guys like Karsten Reynolds, Isaiah Hung,
Hmm.
Aramis Wright, Gage Jones, Jack Ellison, Gavin Fugate. They're relying on some young linebackers to really step up. And I think it's a testament to the confidence they have. But I do think there is also, to some degree, a little bit of a risk that you're basically saying, hey, if even if they run a 4-2-5 and your top three guys at that spot are Keith, Nyland, and DJ Warner, you're saying to either one of these redshirt sophomore, redshirt freshman, and so on, we're expecting you to be able to make the two deep and play a big role. And those are,
Hmm.
and these guys have played a little bit. Gage Jones has played some. Jack Ellison made a start. Karsten Reynolds was, I think, their best special teamer last year, according to PFF. But it's a different transition being able to play linebacker on a regular basis. And I'll be very interested to see who kind of emerges as kind of that number 4 linebacker, presuming the veterans are kind of the top 3 in that unit.
I think if there's one position that if you were concerned about the depth, this would probably be it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because your top three RB, you would feel pretty good about those guys, but then it's a pretty steep. I mean, drop off sounds harsh because I don't want to like diminish what the guys below them are capable of, but they just don't have the reps. Like they just haven't played that much.
Mm-hmm. It's
Um,
just an unknown.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So actually, my number three was like a little bit like that, but I was kind of going for a different angle with the linebackers. It's like the role they play in shoring up the tackling issues that they've had the last couple years. Do you know? And I had to look and make sure that they ended up finishing dead last in PFF's tackling grades last season.
I wrote about it last week.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm not
Now,
tuned
I
in
think
to
it
the same
was a little
document.
different because the gang tackled so much that it didn't create as many
Yeah,
explosive plays.
right. Yeah, it actually wasn't. It's crazy because, like, it was actually less of an issue than it was the year before in 24. Like, that was as bad as it gets.
Yeah.
Um, and I was looking for, like, 'cause I was going back year by year in PFF trying to find the last time they had, like, a really awesome, like, tackling unit, and I was hoping to s I was wondering if I would see something like, top 100, top 50. They were number 4 in 2022. Do you know that?
Yeah, yeah, they were really good. Deion Henley
I
helped.
Oh, that is the year he was here. Okay, that's a great point. Um, I was just amazed. I was like, "Oh my god, like that's I was not ready for that." So anyway, yeah, I'm just kind of wondering, like, kind of the role that these new linebackers will play, and whether or not they can turn around some of those tackling issues. Like, so I looked at Nyland Brown, for example. Last year, played 275 snaps at Kent State, 14 misses total. So, like, kinda, middle of the road, I would say.
Mhm.
And then DJ Warner last year played 207 snaps, so a little bit smaller of a sample size, but only 3 missed tackles. So, you look at some of the numbers that these guys, I know they're probably gonna be playing a lot more here than they did last year, which, creates more opportunities for misses. Um, but I think you could do a lot worse in terms of the tackling, shoring up those issues than those 2 guys that you brought in.
Right.
Um, so 'Cause honestly, like, I think last year was something of an aberration in the way that they made missed tackles, like, they rendered that less of an issue than it was the year prior, and say what you will about Jimmy Rogers, but, like, I've not a whole lot of coaches could have navigated that the way those guys did, I feel like. And
Mhm.
I know a lot of that is probably Jesse Bobbitt, he was amazing, and he's gonna be great at Iowa State. But that was kind of a unique way to combat that issue. But I don't think, like, they can do that again, is my point. So
No, I
I'll
would
be
agree.
so I'll be interested to see just, like, what kinds of things they do in the spring and how much of a purposeful tack that they take with trying to turn that around.
Mhm.
Um, and I believe that's oh, you already you just did your number 3. So that was, that I guess that does it.
No, that was my
Okay,
number
do
2.
are you sure?
Yeah, I gotta do my number 3.
Oh, okay. Alright, yeah, go for it.
Stop trying to cut me off, Greg.
Oh,
Um,
I'm just bad at
I'm
math.
interested I'm interested to see, again, just kind of what the defensive end, where you talk about the defensive tackles. I think they
Mm,
have so much talent at defensive end. I think they were really able to replace kind of what they lost. Obviously tough to replace a Bobby Terrell, but I think
yeah.
they have enough bodies to kind of replace him on the aggregate and then offset the other losses. But I mean, you talk about the guys like Matthias McLean, you talk about Linus Zunk, and then you kind of talk about some of these returners. I'm excited to see what guys like Michael Hughes and Ben Beatty and Malachi Rice and Ed Okunde and some of these guys who we haven't seen a ton of, but have
Mhm.
flashed when they've gotten the opportunities, kind of see what they can do with maybe a bigger opportunity to really come in and earn a role with, again, you don't want to put words in the coach's mouths. You don't want to just assume, but on paper, heading into spring, you'd think Zunk and McLean are probably the top 2 in that room.
Yeah. I mean, they've produced the most, have the most experience. Um, and you know what's crazy about the last couple of years is that, like, the way they've turned over so many of their best D tackles and D ends and still end up being, like, okay at those spots every
Uh-huh.
year. Like, between losing, like, David Gusta and, um, oh my god, guy who went to TCU.
Ansel
How am I
Dinbo,
blanking? Ansel Dinvey. That's crazy. I just forgot his name. And then, oh my god, I know he went to Houston. What is? Oh my
Khalil
god,
Ufau.
Kolu. Yes, sorry, man. This is a bad look for me. It's crazy.
Stop
But
hating
like
the
the way that,
Cougs, Greg. Remember their names.
dude, man, this is just a new way that I'm hitting on them. Is I don't even know their names anymore. It's crazy. But
Actually, that could be the reverse of you don't hate the Cougs, you forget about them when they're no longer Cougs.
yeah,
There you go. All right.
that actually would put me in some good graces with the fans. I feel like I don't. They're dead to me. I don't even know them anymore. It's crazy. But anyway, yeah, I just feel like they've done, and it's great to do it because of how different, like, the coaching turnover too. It's not like they just had like one coaching staff that's like been able to bring in awesome DTAs and DNs every year. It's just like new coaches, and they somehow still just um, fill those gaps pretty well. So okay, well that does it for the top 3. The one thought that I think I will leave you with, is I'm curious to see like who kind of the face or faces of the program will now become. Because obviously last year it was Zevi. Before that it was, Cam and John Material, like guys like that. They don't really have a returner that has that kind of star potential or star power right now. I guess you would look at like Tony Freeman or Kirby Voorhees, guys like that, but no one that's like really like a household name to the extent that something like that can exist at WSU. Um,
Right.
so I'm
I mean,
wondering,
I
just
think
like,
obviously Pinnock, as the
oh, yeah,
as the
yeah, yeah,
presumed
yeah,
quarterback one. Um, I think the interesting thing is, if we say, okay, Voorhees is maybe the slight one over Wood, but he's kind of more of a quiet guy. I mean, I would think Leo of
right.
all would be kind of the talker there, Tony for sure.
Hmm.
And then probably one of the, I mean, you'd think Tripp probably. Whereas on defense, again, you're thinking Beatty, Keith Brown.
Hmm.
And then who knows? That's the interesting thing is maybe one of these transfers we don't know a whole lot about yet has a big boisterous personality and ends up being a big talker.
Yeah, yeah,
I
just
will say I did talk to Matthias McLean for a feature a couple weeks ago. Really, really natural talker. I think he'll be a guy that we get to talk to a lot. Get to kind of. I think he'll be a guy who they go to a lot to talk and so on.
you want to hear a fun fact about Matthias McLean that
Well,
I had in
first
my
off, his name's
story?
Matthias. So
Matthias, man, he really hates the Cougs. That's crazy. You know what he obviously transferred here. You know who he had an offer from in the portal?
Kansas State.
Kansas State.
So the Cougs are going to have beaten Kansas State twice this year.
Oh, is that the case? Oh my gosh. We have beef in
Oh.
March. This is nuts. I gotta for that week. I gotta take down my flag in the background so we can be totally bias free for September the 12th.
That'll be the first game since 2020 I will not be covering.
Oh, you have a wedding, I think you
Yeah,
said,
one of
right?
my best friends is getting married, so I will
That's
not be
right.
at that game. I will not be covering it, but
I seem to remember when you were talking about that in the press box at a game last year, and the way you described that, you were like, "I don't have to go to Manhattan, Kansas."
that doesn't sound like something I would have said.
It sounds like something you would say because the correct word is you get to go
I don't
there.
get to go to Manhattan, Kansas. I'm so
Thank you.
sorry.
Thank you. That's what I want to hear.
All right, there we go. We're settled on that.
Perfect. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this episode. Yeah, spring ball starts on Thursday, so we will both be there. And then they're in Pasco before you know it on Saturday. So we'll both be there, I would imagine. So
Right in the middle of the baseball game.
oh, is that right? I didn't
Yeah,
even
Cougs
hmm.
baseball playing some good ball.
Yeah, they just swept Grand Canyon, I
Yeah,
think.
they have 7 wins away from home this year. They had 6 all last year,
Hmm.
and playing pretty good
Gotta
ball right now.
You should have sat them down with the basketball team and taught them, showed them how to win on the road.
No kidding.
All right. Well, yeah, let's get out of here. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. And Jamey, I will talk to you next week.